July 31st, 2019, Moe Factz with Adam Curry. This is episode number 1. Hey, Mo.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. So, there you go. I figured out the title of the show.
All right, what'd you come up with?
Moe Factz with Adam Curry.
I like that.
Yeah, you already got the brand on the YouTube channel, so, and everywhere else.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you being humble to let me lead on the marquee.
Well, you have to lead on the marquee. So we're trying something new here. This is a brand new show. This is the pilot, the premiere episode, number 1. And a little background. I received an email from Mo, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. And he explained he's a listener to the No Agenda show, and he said, if you really want to know what ADOS is about, and I think I talked about DOS, descendants of slavery, because I kept seeing that pop up here and there, but I really didn't have a clue as to what was going on, and so we started. Actually, I was on my honeymoon. That's what it was. And we were DMing back and forth on Twitter, and I was DMing with you, I think, all the way back to Texas on the plane. We had Wi-Fi, so we're DMing back and forth, and I was like, holy crap, this guy he's opening up a whole new world for me. I had no idea this existed. And then we started chatting a bit, and, these phone calls would often last an hour, and I'd take some of what I'd learned and take it over to the No Agenda show. And finally I said, we should maybe record this. If I'm getting something out of it and you're getting something out of it, maybe other people will. You want to tell the story from your side, Mo? Because we never really talked about that.
So it was following the HR 40.
Oh, right. The
reparations hearing. Mm-hmm. And you were shining light on it, but one thing that was missing from the story that you did was ADOS, right. Which ADOS is the reason why the whole reparation talk has kicked up. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, and I wanted to bring attention to that. And I also wanted to bring attention to the fact that it's not ADOS is like a brand of what is called foundational blacks, native blacks. There's several different titles or names going around for black people that are descendants of slavery, American slavery. And that's very important because, like you said, you brought up DOS. But even after the term DOS came about, ADOS bloomed from that because we need to be very specific if we're talking about getting rights and getting reparations from America. So I thought I would fill in the blanks that were left out by the mainstream media. And I think that was the goal, was to leave ADOS out of the mainstream media. So I think you guys are, correct me if I'm wrong, like a derivative of the mainstream media. And if it's not there and for you guys to pull it out,
then we can't get it. You're absolutely right.
Right. You can't address it. So
absolutely.
I thought it was my duty to, reach out to you and, be boots on the ground. And like you said, we DM for seemed like days. Sorry, sorry, Tina. I'm sorry about that. But
like some odd lovers, like, ooh, I'm DMing my man. Yeah.
Right. So, and I think you were very receptive to, the information that I was giving you, and you did it justice on the following show. And from there, I thought, I would keep providing you what's really going on that the mainstream media is not talking about.
And so as we were talking, then these conversations just kept getting more interesting, and I was blown away because unless you are given a couple of data points, you really wouldn't know that there's been this shift over the years to address, I'll just call black people. It's just easier. That's ADOS in my mind, but
right.
That term, or people of color, or even African American, since Barack Obama, we know that African American didn't really mean anymore what it meant, because Barack Obama was not African American. He was not strictly ADOS. Correct?
And that's correct. And I think the term black at one time in this country meant one thing, but over time, due to mass immigration from Africa, as well as other factors, that the term black no longer represents what was once identified as descendants of slavery, of American slavery.
Right.
So that's where I have to give credit where credit due. Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks, Antonio Moore coined this term / hashtag, and it really stuck, and it gave us descendants of slaves from America something to rally around. But they're not the only brand in town, so I want to be clear of that. But I think they have the most popular branding of the term, and it's a very unpopular. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. It's very unpopular that we want to separate ourselves from the monolith of blackness that the mass media wants to paint us as. And
it's not just mass media. If you listen to the American government, they really don't even think about this. They don't see the separation. It's more like, yeah, I mean, what we were talking the other day about the Congressional Black Caucus. In my mind, it's like, oh, great. So we got the Congressional Black Caucus over there. That's all going to be ADOS. No. Ilhan Omar is in the Congressional Black Caucus.
Correct. And it's very, and I want to make it clear that there is a rift between ADOS and some black immigrants, but other black immigrants are being supportive and they're termed as allies. Mm-hmm. And they're being
what a politically correct term. Oh, goody.
Right. And that's the term that, if you're for American descendants of slaves receiving reparations from America, they consider allies. But there is another faction that feel like if we separate ourselves from the term black, then they lose a little bit of how can I say this? Sympathy is a bad word, but whenever people use the term black, it's used as a leveraging tool in politics. So right. We're going to address this black thing or that black thing.
Yes. Well, and
they use that.
You mentioned reparations, and you're right. That's how we started talking over the HR 40 bill, which was really a bill put in place to start investigating the idea of reparations. And you said a couple of things because reparations is a complicated thing. But it depends on how you look at it. Essentially, we just had a huge 9/11 reparations bill. I mean, a really, really big one. We're talking $50, $60, $70 billion. And above and beyond insurance and other things. And I personally think that might have been an insurance bailout in a way, certainly for the airline industry. Mm-hmm. But I think the term you use the phrase that reparations would be payment for services rendered. And I really like that because you can interpret that in so many different ways. Services rendered to the Democrats, the Democrat Party, services rendered as slaves. I mean, there's many different ways to interpret it. And, a lot of people like, oh, reparations. Yeah, no, we shouldn't do it. Maybe we should. It's a lot of discussion. But when you see what kind of reparations have been paid to people of all kinds of tragedies, it's very interesting to look at the reparations for ADOS and see that really I don't know if there's a lot of movement, if people really understand what they want, if there's a real ask. Is there a number? Maybe that's what HR 40 is intended to do, is to come down to a number. What do you think ADOS wants? Okay, so there is a number. I mean, there's a range of numbers. When you talk about the hardcore, what they call, reparation pushers or demanders, they're talking in the trillions of dollars. Yeah. Multiple trillions, up to, I've heard numbers high as $20 trillion. And how do they calculate that? So that's funny that you asked that. If you watched the debate last night. Oh, funny you say that. I have the clip of Marianne Williamson. Let me. All right, you want to play that? Yeah, then I do, because now I've heard her talk reparations before. We've also, you and I have discussed her doing, kind of weird stuff in the church, which seems a little off message if you're trying to reach a certain group of people. But we're doing this on Wednesday, July 31st. So the first of the second round of Democratic candidate debates was held, and Marianne Williamson finally got it out all in one go. And I have to say, even though she is unlikely to have any chance of becoming president, but maybe she does. Crazier things have happened. I thought this was spot on message, and cruising along Twitter today, I didn't see as many people picking up on it the way I guess I did. Here she is, Marianne Williamson.
Speaking of reparations, Miss Williamson, many of your opponents support a commission to study the issue of reparations for slavery. But you are calling for up to $500 billion in financial assistance. What makes you qualified to determine how much is owed in reparations?
Well, first of all, it's not $500 billion in financial assistance. It's $500 billion, $200 to $500 billion payment of a debt that is owed. That is what reparations is. We need some deep truth-telling when it comes. We don't need another commission to look at evidence. I appreciate what Congressman O'Rourke has said. It is time for us to simply realize that this country will not heal. All that a country is a collection of people. People heal when there's some deep truth-telling. We need to recognize that when it comes to the economic gap between blacks and whites in America, it does come from a great injustice that has never been dealt with. That great injustice has had to do with the fact that there was 250 years of slavery followed by another 100 years of domestic terrorism. What makes me qualified to say $200 to $500 billion? I'll tell you what makes me qualified. If you did the math of the 40 acres and a mule, given that there was 4 to 5 million slaves at the end of the Civil War, there were 4 to 5, and they were all promised 40 acres and a mule for every family of 4. If you did the math today, it would be trillions of dollars, and I believe that anything less than $100 billion is an insult, and I believe that $200 to $500 billion is politically feasible today because so many Americans realize there is an injustice that continues to form a toxicity underneath the surface, an emotional turbulence that only reparations.
Thank you very much.
Well, there you go. There's your calculation.
Right. And that's the funny thing is that whoever's coaching her on this topic has her spot on.
Yeah.
And she has her finger on the pulse of what's being discussed on what you want to call black YouTube, black Twitter, or and
yeah, I'm on gray Twitter at this point. You know, I got some black Twitter coming into my feed, but I didn't see a lot about it, Mo.
Of course, you're not going to see a lot about it because, first of all, the numbers make people very uncomfortable, and even herself, she has to dial it back. And I don't think she can make herself even, not her personally, but her campaign to say the T word, trillion.
Right.
So they have to say 500 million,
but isn't that interesting? We've got other candidates talking trillions of dollars for health care, and for no one has a problem with the trillion number. Just in this specific case, they do.
Well, just look at the definition of what they're using as reparation. Even Don Lemon said assistance, and I'm glad she corrected.
Yeah, she corrected him there. Yes, that was good.
Not assistance, and this is where I come in.
She she says it's a debt to payments owed, I think, but it's kind of similar to what you said. You know, services rendered. It's money that is owed, is what she said.
Correct, and that's what I want people to fully understand is. This is how descendants of slaves, American descendants of slaves, look at this. Our great-great-great-great-grandparents, depending on how far or how old you are, render services to this nation. I mean, by force, but we still render services, and they were never paid back for that. So it's not an assistance program. You know, it's payment for this the work, the hard work they did to get this country off the ground. So when they want to say assistance, that is very insulting because it's not assistance. That makes it seem like welfare or any other governmental program. No,
right? Yes, words do matter in this case. Absolutely.
And like I said, whoever's coaching her or whoever's informing her or whoever's in her corner,
Oprah, of course.
Right, they have her spot on. And I was like blown back. I was like, when she first started out, I'm like, okay. You know, she went there. She said, no, not assistance. This is, you know, and the other thing she said is, not just talk about it. And that's what HR 40 is about. And
that assistance is important because, as you and I have discussed previously, affirmative action, which was, as far as I know, really intended for the then unbranded ADOS, has turned into something much, much broader.
That's correct. White women in general, immigrants of all ilk, take advantage of this. And even programs that are set aside for even black people, they factor in African immigrants that came here, or Caribbean immigrants that came here after slavery. And I think that's a poor representation because, say, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but say if you have 7% ADOS or 8% ADOS and 5% immigrants post-slavery, but then you have them overrepresented in colleges, universities, places of employment, scholarship dollars. That's not how affirmative action was set up to work. It was set up as probably as a repayment of for what happened during slavery.
So I've watched Yvette on YouTube. I've watched Antonia Moore. How big is this ADOS movement, do you think, and how divided, if at all, is our direct American descendants of slavery on this issue?
It's big enough to be a problem for the Democrats.
Well, no kidding. You can see that.
And that's the leverage point. What we really have to look at is how we got here. I've sent you some clips on that.
Yeah.
And how we got here, funny, is because of the election of Donald Trump.
Okay.
And the 2016 the whole campaign process. So if you want to play Hillary Clinton targeting black votes, it's a campaign ad. We can.
Let me see. Is that the first clip you have here? No.
It should say ad.
I'm getting. Oh yeah, I got it here. Okay, here we go.
This is the newspaper of the Ku Klux Klan today. The front page story is "Make America Great Again" with a big photo of Donald Trump.
This little light of mine.
Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
I don't know anything about white supremacy or white supremacists, so I don't know.
Trump management was charged with discriminating against African Americans and breaking federal law.
If I were starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage.
I have a great relationship with the black.
Oh, look at my African American over here. Look at him.
The man that was, I don't know, you say roughed up. He was so obnoxious. Maybe he should have been roughed up.
Why doesn't he show his birth certificate?
What do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no job. 58% of your youth is unemployed.
The violence, the death, the lack of education in these inner cities, it's unsafe. You can't walk to the store and get a loaf of bread. You get shot. Total poverty, drugs, and horrible, horrible violence.
What do you have to lose?
Wait a minute. This was a Hillary Clinton ad?
Yes.
What? Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, break this down because I understand what you're saying here.
First of all, if you notice the music choice.
Yep.
It was pandering to the spirituality of black people. This little light of mine. And this pandering that the Democrats do. It struck a nerve and it's gotten to a boiling point with certain factions of black people that has become very noticeable. It's similar to how when they speak with the black minister voice when they come to talk to black people and crowds of black people. Also, the fear mongering. It's like, oh, if you don't vote for us, the boogeyman's going to get you. But when you listen to Trump in that ad, a lot of the things that he says are the result of Hillary Clinton and the Democrats' policies. The conditions of the black community. What do you have to lose? Now, I think we brought that up in the conversation. That resonated with black people and black Twitter, I'm going to say this a lot, black Twitter and black YouTube. And there was a lot of YouTube content creators. I know that term gets at you, but they started, even Yvette Carnell, she made a very, very good video listening to things, what we didn't have to lose. We're at the bottom right now. And I think this was a poor ad because she was very tone deaf that how this thing could come back on her.
Well, in fact, not just a poor ad, but it seems like it would have the adverse effect, reinforce what Trump said. What have you got to lose? With a big echo, too. I like that at the end there.
Right. So just to break down, one thing, it was a bad idea for her to bring up the Burford attack on Obama
Mm-hmm.
when her and her husband was labeled as the racist in 2008.
But that's kind of a thing. I mean, I've looked back over the, going back to, certainly Bush Jr. The presidents, certainly white guys, always called racist somewhere.
Right, but the thing was, in 2008, she was that racist when she was running against Barack Obama.
Right.
Because Bill Clinton, quote, this guy would have been carrying our bags. And then a few years ago, this guy would have been getting us coffee. And then you got Hillary citing the June 1968 assassination of Robert F. Kennedy for her remaining in this in the presidential when the odds were against her. So what I'm saying is, when you juxtapose her record against Trump record, a lot of Black Americans said, "What is the difference?" So.
And I don't. The numbers are never really clearly explained, but it seems like Trump did get a boost in Black votes from that.
Yeah, yes, he did. He got a boost, and it's the thing that we discussed. I don't think it's widely discussed. Is what I term is the negative vote. If you can make a person stay at home that would normally vote, especially the turnout that Barack Obama saw in 2008 and 2012, by making people think. I mean, like I said, when he asked that question, I really had to sit down and look like, what do we have to lose? We had a president for 8 years that was supposed to have been for us, and we got nothing out of it. Nothing. So that was the real question. Like, what do we have to lose? And Democrats, what are you going to give us? And that was the birth of the reparation. And I know it's a long, shaggy dog story, but that is how reparations, the argument, came about, because it's like, oh, now we have your attention. Now you need us.
Got it. Yep.
Right. So now that's the leveraging. And I know people are like, why are they not attacking the Republicans? Why are they attacking Democrats? Because the Black society, Black community has wholeheartedly voted for Democrats for a very long time, and you want to bring non-citizens here, promise them things. Every other group promised them things, but we're just supposed to turn out. And I have other clips that's going to support that, but I'll let you take the lead.
Well, I was, and I definitely want to go there. I had two questions. Just one little off topic. Mm-hmm. As a Black man, when you hear Trump say, "Where's my African American? There he is." How does that come across to you?
How does it come across to me?
Does that come across to you as like an old guy who's just racist and pandering? Does it come across as a guy who was like, I don't know. I mean, that's the question. To me, it felt, and I think there were a lot of white people was like, what a dick. Don't say it like that, you idiot. It's wrong.
Right. So how it came across to me is an old white guy.
Yeah.
That's how it came across to me. Did it sit well with me? Not really. Okay. But like I said, we have to look at this. Elections are a choice between two people. It's not the perfect candidate. It's between two people. And Democrats gave us nothing to go vote for them for. And really, and I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a sentiment in the Black community that illegal immigration is harmful to us. Certain think Planned Parenthood is harmful to us. So when you have a guy talking like Trump is talking, you won't openly say, "Oh, yeah, I support this guy," but it's like, you know what I'm saying? Que sera, sera, whatever will be, you know what I'm saying? Whatever will be, will be. That's kind of, when you compare the two. So,
well, there's such a pushback against ADOS. In fact, at a certain point, I think that kind of launched on Joy Reid show on MSNBC. All these hashtag ADOS, it's just Russian bots, and don't worry about it. That's really nothing to see here, which was very odd. I mean, besides it being factually untrue. But I think there is a big, certainly in mainstream media, it seems like it's covering up, pushing back, doesn't exist. Even though a lot of mainstream people will use similar term. Actually, what I'm getting to is I saw, and this is, I guess, the guy who's most against or a big issue for the ADOS movement. I saw him on MSNBC the other day. It was very odd in the midday with Stephanie Rule, Charlemagne the God. And Charlemagne the God is a very influential guy amongst Black America. And the reason why he's influential becomes apparent when you just hear his credits.
Joining me now, the one and only Charlemagne the God. His radio show, The Breakfast Club, is syndicated in 90 markets across the nation. That means 8 million listeners a month. His audience is 77% African American or Hispanic. That makes up nearly 1/3 of the Democratic Party electorate. This man has interviewed half of the 2020 Democratic contenders for president, and I promise you, the other half know that they need to pay him a visit. Charlemagne, I'm really glad you're here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So he's got a lot of radio stations. This is a big audience, certainly for radio. I think the Breakfast Club is incredibly popular. But he is really seems like I don't know what his background is, but he seems very much against this idea.
Right. And I think he's becoming this is just my personal opinion, I think he's becoming a political operative. The thing is this, and it actually, Charlemagne the God got a lot of pushback because he's like pro Kamala Harris.
Yes.
And Kamala Harris is not seen as ADOS.
Well, she's not. She's strictly not.
Right.
She's Jamaican and Indian.
That's correct. So what's happening is, I want you to notice a trend here. Kamala Harris, she's not very strong on the reparations talk. She had to be pulled kind of by her nose into the conversation. You have, like you brought up, Joy Reid. She's not ADOS.
Right.
Called us black bots. You know,
black bots.
Right. So you have, Russian bots, but
I like black bots better.
Right. And then you have these media blackout of the word ADOS. I mean, come on. You've heard the term Bernie Bros.
Yes.
You heard the term of these other political factions, but you never have heard once the word ADOS or foundational blacks, or even the fact that there's an uprising in the black community.
All right. Well,
saying that we won't vote.
Well, so right there, and I want you to get into your clips. Isn't that by definition some racist movement?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's.
But who's pushing it?
It's the Democrats. I mean, look, if you're not pro-Democrat, you don't have a voice. And this is kind of off the subject, but even Colin Kaepernick felt the wrath. And I wish I would have had this clip available. I could tell you what happened. He was like the golden boy, taking a knee, fighting the NFL, everything. But when he came out and said, "I'm not going to vote for neither Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump," obviously, they basically did a media blackout on him
because he didn't say, "Yeah, I'm all in for Hillary."
You have to be all in, and you have to be all in for the party choice. You got the same thing with any Bernie Sanders voters. If you you have to toe the party line because they need us to turn out. And if you want to go to let's see. Let's go to the Obama and Hillary campaign for black votes.
Okay.
If I hear anybody saying
This is the one you're talking about?
Yes, this is it.
Okay, hold on.
If I hear anybody saying their vote does not matter, then it doesn't matter who we elect. Read up on your history. It matters. We've got to get people to vote. In fact, if you want to give Michelle and me a good send-off, and that was a beautiful video, but don't just watch us walk off into the sunset now. Get people registered to vote. If you care about our legacy, realize everything we stand for is at stake. All the progress we've made is at stake in this election. My name may not be on the ballot, but our progress is on the ballot.
All right.
So listen to the tone. Okay, let me give you a little background. This is Obama at the NAACP 106 National Convention, pre-election 2016. And I want people to notice, listen at the tone of how he's talking to black people.
Oh yeah, he's totally talking black.
And not only that, but listen to the tone how he's talking down to them. If I hear anybody say, it's like, what? Who are you talking to like this? I mean, this is how this thing was received. Like, she put him out there like, oh yeah, work your Obama magic, get him back in line. Everybody had to fall in line. And like you said, he said, the question is how has our vote mattered up until this point? We've elected you for 8 years. You until your last years when mass incarceration came out of your mouth. You know, I'm gonna go there. This was a sentiment, and I'm gonna give y'all a little inside baseball into black politics. When Barack Obama was elected in 2008, the sentiment was, hey, he can't do nothing the first term, okay? You know, he got to play it cool.
Really?
Yes.
He's got to, Brother Barack got to ease in.
Right. He got to play it cool. But if we get him in 2012, then he can let the floodgates go. So, you know, that's why you really never heard any criticism of him besides things like Tavis Smiley and maybe Cornel West. I mean, they kind of came at him a little bit.
Well, they got rid of Tavis Smiley now, didn't they?
Very much so, because he wasn't towing the party line. And this is all politics. This has nothing to do with race per se, is in the fact that, what's good for black people. It's about what's good for Democrats. And that we are a strong voting bloc of 90%. You know, we turn out, I think, around like 60, somewhere in the 60% of the population, or 13 million that turn out. And then the key states you got to look at in the South, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina. These are the strongholds of high ADOS populations. But when you say our progress, we're asking what progress? So just back to the inside baseball. So we waited for 2012. Okay. He got elected 2012. Nothing. Not one thing.
Isn't that interesting that there's a similar sentiment with Trump that he's playing right now? Same idea. Okay, we had all this crap, you know, with the Democrats, but you elect me now. Oh, why? It's going to happen.
Right. We can't drain the swamp right now.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
It's the, and that's why I said it's a weird polar opposites that Obama and Trump had, where you had MAGA was created by Trump. ADOS is the weird polar opposite of MAGA. Right. The way it's being demonized, similar to MAGA.
Yep.
You know, you have these weird things going, but like I said, when we got him back in the office, not we, but when black people got him back in, and they turned out, man, you saw the pictures, you saw the lines going down around the block.
Oh, yeah.
We turned out for him. And you pick transgender bathrooms as your hill to die on. Nothing against transgender. I mean, I'm not saying that, but this is how it was perceived to black people. This is the hill you choose to die on.
Right. Hey, where's the ADOS hats, man? There's the marketing problem.
I don't know where the paraphernalia is, and I want to make it clear. I am not a card carrying member of ADOS, the group, but I am lowercase ADOS, and what I mean by that is my parents, you know, saying my grandparents are descendants of slaves. I come from a line of sharecroppers. My great great grandfather was a sharecropper. I have his books. I mean, he was a very intelligent man. He kept perfect records. I mean, so I want to dispel that myth. You know what I'm saying? That these people weren't intelligent either.
And just to be clear, ADOS, you don't have to have both parents descending from slavery, correct?
Right, and that's the thing. We're not saying, and I have to say we, but not as the lowercase ADOS. We're not exclusive. We're not excluding people. We're saying if you have one parent or half of one parent, you know, as long as you have lineage going back. And I think that's one of the things going to have to be figured out. How do you split up the money? Who gets what? But that's not the concern of the people cutting the check. And you hear this sentiment, cut the check. Because what people want to do is get you in this circle argument of who will get the money and where the money come from. Cut the check. That's the mantra. You know, you want our vote, and we're talking specifically to Democrats, because you're the ones that gotten our vote for so long and came to us empty-handed. You only show up the last Sunday before elections to our churches, and you're saying remind us to vote. And I want to go into that part 2 of that the clip we just played.
Okay, you ready?
And after we have achieved historic turnout in 2008 and 2012, especially in the African American community, I will consider it a personal insult, an insult to my legacy, if this community lets down its guard and fails to activate itself in this election. You want to give me a good send-off? Go vote!
Woo! Listen to the tone.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the tone. And he said it there. Historical voter turnout in 2008 and 2012. And that's what Hillary thought she was going to get. But the problem is and I know we're going back in history, but we got to go back to understand how we're at this point right now, heading into the 2020 election. Because when you have a guy that didn't give us anything for 8 years, and do you show up right before the election and you talk to us like this, it's a personal insult to my legacy. My legacy. And then he says, he didn't say my community or our community. He said this community. Words matter. Words matter. And he didn't make himself inclusive in the community. And then that last line, if you want to wind it back a little bit, he said, if black people don't activate itself, they don't want us engaged. They don't want engagement. They want activation. They could just turn us on, the last quarter or last year out of every 4. And then we activate, go vote. And then we're saying we lay dormant and you're saying docile.
Hold on a second.
In this election, you want to give me a good send-off? Go vote!
That part? We want to go back further.
I'll go back a little bit further.
Okay.
And an insult to my legacy, if this community lets down its guard and fails to activate itself in this election. You want to give me a good send-off? Go vote!
I always like this community. Whenever I hear someone say the LGBTQ community, the black community, I'm like, they ain't no fucking community. It's non-existent community. I despise that.
But in this case, when we're talking about politics, black politics, it's a monolith.
Yeah.
Not in thought, but hey, when it comes time, whoever the Democrats pick, that's who you vote for, or that's the expectation. Right. And surprise, surprise, we're not there anymore. And just one funny thing, just a side note. I know we had the whole Trump rat-infested Baltimore thing. I got a quote here from Obama in this same speech, and he says, "What doesn't make sense is treating an entire neighborhood as more than danger zones, where we just surround them. We ask police to go in there and do the tough job of trying to contain hopelessness." And then he goes on to say, and lift those communities out of hopelessness. And then he expressly says, West Philly, West Baltimore, Ferguson. Where was the outrage when he blankly covered a community like West Baltimore as danger zones and contains hopelessness?
Well, that's what the Democrats would call whataboutism, but it's true, of course. I mean, President Trump says all kinds of things that Barack Obama has said, same policies, and but then that's always flipped back and forth. That's American media, that's American politics. But actually, when I heard Charlemagne the God talking about this, he brought in something else that just was a real head shaker. Listen to this.
So this weekend, he goes after Elijah Cummings, but he didn't go after him and say, and here's my new Marshall Plan to save Baltimore and all these other oppressed communities. He pointed the finger and then sat back in the Oval Office. Well, voters say, hold on a second. You've been president. What did you actually do?
Absolutely. You're the president of the United States of America. If you think that, Baltimore is a problem, then go fix it. Send some federal aid there. You want to make America great again, then start with Baltimore. But once again, it's just systemic racism and oppression. That's the only reason he's having this conversation. But we're letting him distract us from the fact that it started with the conversation about the kids at the border. Let's get back to that. Don't let him change the subject so easily by talking about Baltimore. Because Donald Trump don't give a damn about those black kids in Baltimore or those brown kids at the border.
I thought this was amazing. He takes it right back to another thing that actually hurts poor black people. Is illegal immigration.
Exactly. And that's the thing that irritates the hell out of me. While you have the spotlight on the poor black kids in Baltimore, and you can say, look, their conditions is no better than, the ones at the border. No, you want to pivot and say, oh, no, look over there, because you know why? Because Baltimore has been democratically ran for almost 40 years. Their representation hasn't done anything to make it better. And that's another thing. You're shining a light on a problem that they don't really want to have a conversation about. And in the black social media sphere, there was like, yeah, Baltimore is a crappy place to live. It is. Let's just be honest. That's why people don't want to live there unless it's gentrified. Then you get rid of the poor people, and then yeah, we can live there. But it's weird that everybody wants to focus on illegal immigration, and like you said, and these things that are detrimental. Because let's be honest, a good portion of Black society is in direct competition to illegal immigrants when they come in, or immigrants in general, but illegal immigrants, to be specific. And you want to bring more here, and that's not out of hatred, but it's like, hey, we're in line first, and we have the biggest debt. And if you got money to spare, hey, throw that in on the check for reparations. It's like me owing you $20, not like for 20 years. And I tell you about all the other people I paid back, I still haven't gave you your $20 back. Right. It's very, very disrespectful.
Yeah. It was odd to hear Charlemagne say that. And it's just like, man, you're really being propped up like a puppet in this case. There's a very popular guy. He's dressed like a Black American. He's got his crew baseball cap on. He's completely in character, and really just seemed like he was telling white people what they wanted to hear, which would make sense for that show at that time.
Right, and then he's had all the presidential candidates come on his show, the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, it's an obligatory stop now.
And he throws them softball questions like asking Kamala Harris, does she smoke weed? Well, how does that help us as Black people?
Come on, that was funny. It
was funny, but it's like, yeah, you have a guy or woman in front of you, ask a serious question. But no, that's not what you get. We get this, and it's very they don't take us serious, but they will. They will take us serious once they realize that. In another term, everybody can Google, is Tangibles 2020, or tangibles in general. The Black portion of people that's withholding their vote will not turn out until they see something tangible offered.
Tangibles 2020, you said?
Right. Tangibles 2020 is one of the hashtags that you can follow. If they don't come with something to the table, and I just want to go back a little bit, even Mary Ann Williamson was uncomfortable with saying the trillion word. I want to make that very clear to people and the listeners that she couldn't even bring herself to say Black people are asking for $1 trillion. No, she had to softball it and be like, yeah, 200 billion or 500 billion.
Yeah, she did walk it back. She did walk it back. That's true. She did walk it back.
Right, yeah. Because if you talk about, and even she said, if you add up, if we were promised 40 acres and a mule, this is her words, 40 acres and a mule. If you do the math, that's trillions of dollars. So just say $2 trillion if she said plural trillions. So now you're asking us to take a 90% hit on what we're owed? Right.
It's the American way, man. Come on. Shut up. We'll make you whole on the back end. Don't worry about it. Right. I just want to go back to Charlemagne because I find him so iconic. And here's what he had said about voting one party or the other.
Because, if America is in danger, like who you think is going to be impacted the most by whatever racist policies, whatever policies that.
By the way, he's pretty sure Trump's a racist, just in case you hadn't noticed.
Press, whatever policies that marginalize, like who's next to be in concentration camps in America? It's not going to be white people, I don't think. So if we know what's good for us, we will definitely go out there and vote. But I don't think it's anything wrong with making sure that the Democrats have a Black agenda. Like we've been loyal to the Democrats for a long time, and what have Democrats really done for us in a real way? So I don't think there's anything wrong with, asking Democrats to have a specific Black agenda. Don't hit us with the whole a rising tide lifts all boats, because we know Black people's boat has a hole in it. So it doesn't rise with the rest of America.
Now he's saying what you're saying.
Yes, he's saying what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, and at the end of the day, whoever gets selected as, even if it's Hillary Clinton again, just say she comes out of retirement,
could happen.
And it will be suck it up and vote for her. And just go on to another clip, Super Predator.
Super Predator, yes.
In 1994, Bill Clinton wanted to pass a crime legislation, and it was 3 strikes, Bill. So if you have...
This is, Young Turks?
This is Young Turks, yes. This is during the 2016 primaries.
3 felonies, you get a life sentence. Hillary Clinton was the first lady and aggressively lobbied for it. She gave a speech in 94 defending this piece of legislation. Now, she had many different defenses to it, and some of it were good parts of the bill, including community policing. And here in this clip, she's going to be talking about gangs, not just all kids, not just black kids. But when they talk about super predators, they almost always meant young African-American kids. And so here is Hillary Clinton talking about what should be done with them.
Not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
Bring them to heel. Very rarely was the term super predator ever used in reference to white kids. Perhaps sometimes in reference to the Columbine kids, but almost always when talking about black kids in inner cities who are in gangs. So I'm giving you the full context. It wasn't just that she was talking about super predators, and it wasn't just regular old kids walking down the street. But was it racially used, that term? Yes, it most certainly was. It was used over and over by Republicans, adopted by the Clintons to scare everybody. Oh, watch out for the super predators. They have no conscience. They have no empathy. We got to bring them to heel.
All right, so the reason why I wanted to play this clip was this is during the primaries, and the Young Turks were backing Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So this was an attack ad or attack piece against Hillary Clinton. But once Hillary Clinton was selected as the nominee, they come back to black people and say, oh, yeah, all this stuff we said about her, forget about that. Vote for her. So I brought that up just to bring up the fact with Charlamagne the God. He'll talk all this talk, and they'll say, oh, well, we asked him for something. At least, we got a hearing, to talk about what we could talk about on reparations, a meeting to plan a meeting. But when it really talk about getting something delivered, oh, well, we did what we could,
right.
But go vote Democrat.
Right.
This is what we get. And it's like, no, you're going to have to promise us something big. Until you do that, and you come out and not, be mealy mouth about him. Oh, well, we're going to do something. We're going to take care of you or give you a program. No. Pay us for services rendered, and then we could talk. And that's a real sentiment among a large enough population of black descendants of slaves and their allies to withhold our vote and be very damaging to the Democratic Party.
Just on the reparations and cut us a check and pay us, it's kind of the same conversation that's being held now about student debt reparation. Let's just call it what it is. Because you got screwed by the government and your school, so we're going to give you reparations. It's a big promise. So who does that go to? How does that work? How much money is it? What can you spend it on anything? Will it help? What's the thinking on that?
And what's the thinking on that is they think that could be one of the things Charlamagne the God says. That's one of those rising tide lift all boats, but that's not specific enough.
No, but what I'm saying is, so all of a sudden, here's $1 trillion. We're going to give that to ADOS. That's your debt paid. So what are you expecting? What is everyone expecting? And then what will the long-term effects of that be? Will it really raise everybody up? Will it do good? Or is it like lotto winners? Everyone goes nuts and goes drugging and whoring, and then it's all spent? I mean, is there any thought about that?
To be honest with you, there'll be some winners and there'll be some losers. Some of the money will, and I'm a very honest person. Some of the money will go back to corporate America. I mean, let's just be honest, because they'll be spent unwisely, if that's the word, but it'll just be pissed away. And, but we can't think like that when you're talking about what somebody is owed. If we're talking about a program to help people, that's one thing. And that's why I said Marianne Williamson to redirect Don Lemon, who was a black man, allegedly, to come with the service,
I think he may be fading, man. I don't know.
Right. That guy has said so many questionable things, but yeah. You can't worry about how that person is going to spend the money when you owe it to them. Now, if you're giving money to somebody, that's different.
Right.
Because you say, how are you going to spend this money that we set aside to help you? But that's why I said the context of what reparations really is owed. It's not a gift, not assistance. So to be honest with you, yes, some people will piss the money away. Yes, it will.
No, you're right. You're right. Is there a legal case with the 40 acres and a mule? Is that the right path? Is that the way to go? Is that because I see inflation, I see how the calculation works, but is that I think that's the right question. Can a legal case be made that 40 acres and a mule equals this today? Right.
So who I was in support of, and he's no longer living, is Johnny Cochran. Back in the 90s, he wanted to go about it as a legal action, not a political action.
Right.
I think that's me personally, I think that's the best way. Because you will get better traction, and then it doesn't look like a handout.
Right.
Where it gets political at is getting the right judges appointed that have the mindset to support legal actions. So that's what I'm a big supporter of, is going the legal route. But what we have to do then is candidates say, yes, I will appoint judges. It'll be similar to like a Planned Parenthood or reproductive rights. What is your stance on this, for judges? And then, we appoint the appropriate people. That way, when you get to federal court, it'll be settled in the way it needs to be settled. So yeah, I think it could be. I think that's more realistic, because I honestly don't think a candidate can bring themselves to say the number that would be meaningful enough. Because I don't think $500 billion is not going to get it. $500 billion is not going to, because even go back to what she said, $100 billion is laughable.
Yeah,
it's an insult.
Yeah.
So do you say 2 is not? I don't.
Yeah.
What are you saying? I mean, what are we saying? I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
No, it's just, I don't know. It's just that even when somebody is doing well, then they have to, back themselves up, because how it would be received. But I don't see that with illegal immigration. People come here, and like I said, I get it. If I could cross the border illegally and live a 10x better life, who's to say I wouldn't? I understand it, but for politicians to seriously say, yeah, come here, and we're going to give you everything that the bottom rung of citizens have or more, because you were good at breaking the law. I don't get that, But then when people of my ilk ask for things that we feel we deserve, it's like, oh no, we can't do that.
Right. Yeah, I understand the frustration, which is the whole fascination I have, which has led to this show. I mean, this is stuff that you just don't think about. And to be honest, I don't see any of this talk coming out of Trump, nothing, reparations-wise, and I doubt it will ever happen under a Trump presidency.
So here's what I think. I think Trump has hard enough time, and I'm not a Trump apologist. I understand how he could be viewed as being problematic, but he has hard enough time holding his loosely held together base, because his base is made up of many different factions of people, that he can't, even if he wanted to, he can't take this on. But as a jab to Obama, once he's, and that's kind of a weird thing, like I said about the 2012 thing. Who's to say what Trump would say once he's reelected? Right. I mean, we saw
That's true.
we saw what he's done with mass incarceration.
Yep.
Nobody. I mean, he's trying to get rappers out of jail in other countries. I mean, if you're following the ASAP Rocky story,
yeah.
It's like you really can't get your head around Trump. I mean, because he's so unorthodox that you think you can put him in a box over here, but it's like that doesn't line up with that thought process.
Yeah, good point.
I think just not again on a tangent, but I think he's a hospitality guy. And what do? They give you what you want.
Such a good point.
They give you want a mint on your pillow? Okay, got it. You know what I'm saying? You want,
Welcome to Trump country. Yeah.
Right.
Mint on the pillow, sir.
He's everything to everybody. I mean, and it's a weird, that's why I think he's carving out his base out of many different groups.
And do you think he's carving out a black base? Do you think he has support, like a real identifiable support?
We talked about this off air, and this is a real sentiment. Donald Trump breathed life back into the black patriarchy. Because the way patriarchy as a whole was suffering, the fact that, and if I'm going to say it like this, but men could let their nuts hang again. You know what I mean? Because it's like they had rescinded. It's like, I can't say that. I can't do that.
You can't say any of that either, but okay, I love it on the show.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but that's how it was like, man, like, I mean, yeah, we don't have to, like,
So the patriarchal hierarchy within black families is demonstrably incredibly hurt. There's a lot of kids growing up who do not have an established father figure around all the time. I mean, that's a fact.
Correct. And now let me ask you a question. Why do you think that is? Not to put you on the spot, but I just want to get an honest answer to why you think it's not a right answer, but why do you think that is?
Historically, there's so many different explanations for this, and I've never really taken a position on why, but I would say certain welfare programs, I think, were misguided.
Yes.
Go ahead. Fill me in.
It started there. And, there was a thing called no man in the house rule. Mm-hmm. That's where if you wanted public assistance, the man had to be removed from the home.
See, I knew I was close.
Right. So I just wanted to see, you're saying, why are we here now where it's acceptable? 75% of black children are born in a single parent household, most of them being led by women. How did we get here? Because when you say you can't have a man in the household if you want your kids to eat, that's a governmental, that was a government funded and supported.
What was this called again? What was
no man in the house rule, if I'm correct.
Okay. Yeah,
I did a show about this, on the destruction of the black family, and this was a real rule. And then you factor in housing projects. Basically, welfare became the father. The state became the father.
This was set up in 1968.
Right.
Yes.
If you go back, at one time, black 2-parent households were higher than white 2-parent households.
Yeah, so this was 68, and it was the AFDC program, Aid to Families of Dependent Children. And there you had the man in the house rule that you were not ineligible if there was a man in the house. What was that under? Was that Johnson?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And he's a what?
A Democrat.
Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
Ding! I need to get a bill.
And he was super racist. I mean, there's lots of evidence of how racist he was.
Johnson, no.
Yes, he was. What are you talking about?
I'm being.
You're being facetious on me now.
I'm
Okay.
being very. But if you listen to people talk, and I got attacked. I think I sent you the interaction I had with the guy that called ADOS. What was it? Weaponized ignorance?
Yes, yeah, the professor.
Right, the professor. You know what I'm saying? He's a professor, of Black history and other topics. Yeah, he called ADOS weaponized ignorance, but his favorite president was Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that's when all of these things, we're in a weird place because with the internet, with all the information that's being, brought to the surface, when you have Malcolm X being against liberals, saying be careful of liberals, and the people they bring in front of us as being puppets.
Well, he was very clear. He didn't like anybody, especially white people, but he said the liberals are worse.
Right. He called it the fox and the wolf.
Yes.
And the thing was, with a wolf, you know what a wolf is about. He's going to eat you. But like a fox, it'll sneak around. So when you have these things resurfacing and reshaping the way people look at things, the luster has been worn off of what the Democrats had. The spell has kind of been broken. And that's why you have a segment of society being called ADOS and their allies. They're saying, you know what? Foundational Blacks, I want to make sure I don't want to piss anybody off by not giving their term any love. But,
the Foundational Blacks term?
Right. That's another. It's like I said, ADOS is just a brand. It's like Tupperware. We all call every plastic bowl Tupperware.
Yeah.
Even if it's not made by Tupperware.
Got it.
Or a copy machine. We call it a Xerox machine. But, it's kind of like the term. But what you have is a group of Black people say, you know what? We're not falling for it anymore. You do it without us. And the Democrats know they can't. So they're between a rock and a hard place.
Got it. What else you got here to play?
Just one last set of clips, and that's from Fox News. It was just talking about the importance of black voter turnout.
In early voting, you can actually tell who is voting, not which way they voted, but who's doing it. In states like North Carolina, the black vote is down 16% from 2012. Listen to President Obama urging black voters, get out there and vote, please.
I hate to put a little pressure on you, but the fate of the republic rests on your shoulders. The fate of the world is teetering, and you, North Carolina, are going to have to make sure that we push it in the right direction. If Hillary wins North Carolina, she wins. When I said the fate of the republic rests on you, I wasn't joking.
Pretty strident stuff there. Joining us now, Stacey Washington, host of Stacey on the Right. I think, can I say this? I'm looking at a headline in the Financial Times out of Britain today. It says, Obama rallying cry to black voters as polls show Trump making gains. Now, it seems to me that maybe black voters hold the key to the entire election. Is that right?
Is that
and
right?
There you have it. Yes, it is. And for a very long time, as they say, the rabbit has the gun. The rabbit has the gun. So what are they going to do? And the thing is, we don't have our, and I don't want to speak for all of any group, but we don't have any loyalty to any political party. Whoever would step up and show they want to really, help our community, we'll listen. This is have the most leverage with the Democrats.
But is this really true, Mo? I mean, and why is it different now? Because since blacks vote for Democrats. It's just the fact of life. You grow up. It's like you will vote Democrat. Is it different now because of the internet? Because of different channels of information? Will it really be different? Is it? Are we just sitting here blowing in the wind? Do you really feel this?
So the percentage won't change of who votes and how they vote. What will change is the percentage that turn out. And
got it.
In 2012, it was at 66.6%. And in 2016, it was 59.6%. And that's even before the term ADOS and these reparation demands even begin to happen. So it's not about the percentage of, like I said, you're always going to have high 80s, 90% of who vote Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
What you're going to not have is, if that thing drops under, say, 55%, 50%, the Democrats will never win another election.
And that's just the numbers.
That's just the numbers.
So it's pretty close. We're within a point or so of that.
Right. So like I said, in 2016, it dropped down to 59.6, and they lost. And that's why the term I'm talking about, the negative vote.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're talking about start swinging those over to the other side, when you hear a question about reparations being asked at a major political debate, that lets you know the climate that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of sad though. It's not saying foundational blacks, ADOS, will vote for this candidate who has their best interest at heart, but they're not going to vote. They're not even going to vote. Or vote for for the rent's too high guy or something like that. But it's not really voting for someone they want to stand behind, but it's voting against the established pattern.
Right. And the problem that we had was this. When you tell me, and I had this argument / discussion with my dad. He tells me, you got to vote. Your grandfather stood in line and they give you the whole spiel. And it's not to minimize it, but you got to vote. All right, Dad, so I'm going to listen to both candidates. No, you can't vote Republican.
Right.
So it's like, what choice do I have? I thought voting was a choice. So now I don't have a choice?
Right.
So this is where we're starting to see people push back. Like, no, you won't force me to make a choice. Treat me like you do everybody else. Don't activate me. Try to entice me with what you're going to offer me. Farmers get it. Dairy farmers get it. LGBT gets it. Illegal immigrants get it. They're all enticed by what they're going to get. What they tell us is what you heard throughout these clips. It's your duty to save the republic. The whole world's going to end. It's like, what? Why are you putting this kind of pressure on me?
Right.
And without nothing to give us back. No. That's not going to work.
Interesting.
But there is an interesting thing that's happening now. I'll brought up the patriarchy. So what you have now is, and you saw this with at the Essence Festival, which is historically, it's not on black owned or black ran anymore, but the Essence magazine is the Essence Festival.
Oh yeah, I love Kamala at the Essence.
What you have now is, and this is a real problem that the Democrats have. If they have any chance of winning, they either have to have a black candidate for president or no less than a female or a black female candidate for vice president. It has to happen because what they're trying to do now is say, oh, okay, the men, they're with this whole patriarchy thing.
So we start to separate black men and black women.
Right. And the proof I have of that is the Democratic National Committee chairman, Tom Perez, called black women specifically, not black people, the black backbone of the Democratic Party. And that was after Doug Jones defeated Roy Moore in that special election they had down in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're starting to see there have a specific pandering like, black woman, you can save us, even though there's no And it's feeding into this ongoing gender war. That's not just, that's across all races of color. We're seeing that they're trying to spark up a gender war. So they're going to feed into that, and try to make up that 7% number by activating, their word, not mine, black women more.
So it's really, in a sick kind of way, it's back to man in the house rule.
That's exactly what it is.
Because that works so well. We just need to do a new version of it.
Exactly. It's a dirty game, man.
You think people are sitting around a table and actually talking about this stuff like this? It's like, yes. I know what we can do. Yeah, we'll get him.
Me personally, yes, I do believe that. For the same reason, this is my personal belief, that to destabilize the black community as a whole, and I'm not a person that says that white supremacy doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist in the way we think it is. We think that, these harmful words is white. No, there's a system that is focused on keeping a group of people at the bottom. You have to have a bottom. So it's like, who fits that role?
Right. Yeah. And I think there is a big difference between racist policies, which clearly they're racist policies, and bigotry, which is really ignorance, I would say. I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff, certainly when it comes to black people. The hell do I know? I'm learning, but am I bigoted? Sure. Am I racist? No. But bigoted? Yeah, I have all kinds of preconceived notions that you don't even realize. Like, yeah.
So what drew me into listening to you and John's show is, so once you get out of the whole focusing on one group of people trying to hold the other group of people down, it's the elite.
Yeah, always.
It's the elite. It's like, we're going to give this guy over here a steak and this guy over here nothing, and we'll let them fight over that steak, and they won't ever come kill us for the rest of the cow. It's like, what? I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And I think when people zoom out, when we have conversations like me and you have the magical conversation, but when we have open dialogue and say, we're suffering just like the people on the other side are suffering. But then the media punks is like, oh yeah, this coal miner in West Virginia, he's getting a couple more dollars an hour than this guy over here. It's like, but you guys are the one cutting the check and making the wage. Why is he getting that?
Yes.
So it's the weird divide and conquer strategy, and we're starting to see it intra the black community. I mean, we've seen it before, but we're starting to see it, like I said, pointed out now. It's all black women,
right?
Millennials against the boomers. I mean, you have all these divides, man. It's like, it's a weird place right now. Like I said, you have the millennials against the boomers. You have man against woman, liberals against conservative. Well, it's not political there. It's that, I think you pointed out, I don't want to, attribute this to you, but black people are some of the most conservative people.
Yes.
On certain topics.
Yeah.
And so when you start trying to bring this, new age, new way of thinking in, that's a natural divide. That's why I brought up with Mary Ann Williamson that she's going to have a stumbling block, even though she's speaking excellent on reparations. It's besides her number. When people start to dig into her and her whole spirituality thing, that's not gonna fly. I mean, because as you heard before, this little light of mine, they know black people are spiritually based, and not all, but I'm saying a good amount. And when you start playing with that, it's not going to work. But just to go back, this weird divide, but it's happening on a larger scale as well. And when I start listening to you guys' show, it's like, oh, it's not just us.
Yes. And I think this may be a good point to stop, Mo. I want to pick this up in the next episode.
All right.
And I think we should talk about the elites and the Soros sisters and all that stuff, and this apparent strategy to divide black men and women to get black vote, I think is an interesting place to pick that back up, or whatever else happens in the meantime.
Right, sounds good.
All right, Mo, I think we should make a show out of this.
I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the ride.
All right, it's Moe Factz with Adam Curry, and we'll see you next time.
Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. Malcolm X. No sellout. Malcolm X. No sellout.